Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Jackson. I am the Head of Academic Operations here at GCU London and also the Programme Leader for MBA Luxury Brand Management. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this Alumni Online Talk. And today we have the great honour of hearing from our distinguished speaker and ex-GCU London graduate, Nele Odzuck, who is Client Solutions Lead for TikTok, the fastest growing social media platform in the world, as I'm sure you're aware. Nele's talk is a particularly special one for me, as she was one of my students at GCU London in 2017, and I also had the privilege of supervising her dissertation. Wow, what a journey she's been on since then. Today, Nele will tell us about that journey from completing the MBA in Luxury Brand Management here in London to take you on a leadership role with one of the most recognisable social media apps in the world. But first, a little more about Nele. At the young age of 27, Nele began her journey into leadership and now manages 4 innovative teams at TikTok in Berlin. With a focus on branding and performance marketing strategies, Nele has been instrumental in driving revenue growth for a diverse range of companies, including prestigious names like L'Oreal and Hugo Boss. Her expertise spans across various consumer goods sectors, including food, nutrition, beauty, healthcare, fashion, luxury, and more, making her an invaluable asset to businesses aiming to leverage TikTok's powerful platform in Germany and Austria. We're extremely grateful for all your support, Nele, and thrilled to have you back with us this afternoon. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce Nele Odzuck to deliver this afternoon's talk.
Thank you, Tim, for the intro, and hi, everyone. Maybe you can just give in the Q&A a quick, or you can. I think you can do it in a chat because it doesn't have to be a question of where you're dialing in from. Interested to hear where you currently are. I mean, I'm in Berlin. Maybe there's even some people who are currently in Berlin, so don't be shy. You can type it in the chat, and be interesting to hear. And yeah, then I'll just start straight away. I will speak to you today mostly about the topic of leadership and self-development. Glasgow, nice. Via Australia, okay. Nice, cool. And yeah, I'll speak to you about leadership and self-development, and we'll also have some time for questions later. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and looking forward also to the Q&A. So without further ado, then I'll share my screen and you can all see the screen, right? Cool. All right, so this is the most awkward slide, of course, always presenting myself again. So just quickly intro on me. So I'm based in Berlin, as Tim already said, and I'm leading the Client Solutions cluster for consumer goods. So this is like, okay, what does that even mean? So maybe to give you a quick explanation on that. So I'm leading basically the teams that are responsible to advertising clients on TikTok. So let's say you are working at L'Oreal and it is your role to drive more sales for a specific category for the specific eyelashes. And this is what my team is doing. Like they're helping let's say the brand manager at L'Oreal to drive more sales via TikTok, via advertising on TikTok. And I'm particularly managing the client solutions team, and this team is really in charge of, okay, which strategies, which marketing strategies will help which client at which stage to drive towards their KPIs, if that is sales or awareness or consideration, whatever the KPI is. So just a quick explanation on what my role is actually. But what we will speak about today is, yeah, not only the current role and what I'm doing, but, you know, when I was asked to do this sort of talk, I was thinking, okay, if I would be, you know, currently studying at GCU, or if I would listen to a webinar of someone else maybe presenting their journey, what would I be most interested in hearing? And I was just thinking, okay, I'll just present what I would be most interested in. And this is basically just some learnings that I got along the way, and some advice on a couple of things. And I tried to customize it to sort of everyone who's in the call. There's probably a mix of like alumni, but also currently students. So this is why it will be a very broad range of topics. Starting with quickly, first of all, my journey, so you know where I'm coming from when I'm giving you my advice. Then I'll tell you a bit of like maybe do's and don'ts. This is all my perspective, right? When studying at GCU, do's and don'ts when applying for your first job. Again, do's and don'ts for the first 90 days, and to progress in a company. And then last but not least, to develop into a leadership role, because I also know there was some questions around that, like, how did you do it? How can I develop into a leadership role? And then we'll have a Q&A. Cool, let's start. So my journey. So this is like a snapshot with two girls cheering with a coconut, but maybe to make it look a bit more fun. What has been my journey? So after completing my A-levels, I went to study in Hamburg at university that is specializing also like mostly on fashion. So it can be fashion design, but also fashion textile managing, textile management, visual merchandising. So it's only like fashion courses. And I heard about this university already when I was 15, and I always, thought, okay, I really want to become a fashion buyer. This is the only thing I want to do. And this is why I picked out this course already really early when I was still in school, and I applied for it under a conditional offer when I was 16. And then I was like, okay, this is the only thing I have my eyes set on. I want to become a fashion buyer. So I went to study there, and I sort of realized, wow, I'm actually really interested in also like a couple of other things like marketing, but also, just economics. I was really interested in that, and I would like to learn more about that. And I also figured out I'm really bad at like painting and sewing. So I was thinking maybe this whole fashion thing is not so much for me, but I don't know yet. I want to still try it out. So that's where GCU really came in at the perfect place, because I wanted to explore also other opportunities and go a bit like outside of my, like explore and expand my horizon. And I applied for also a scholarship with M&S back then. So Marks and Spencer and GCU London had, or I don't know, maybe still have, a partnership for a scholarship, and I actually got it. So that was for me like, okay, I'll definitely go to London, because this is a sign, this is karma. I did my MBA in luxury brand management at GCU in London, and during that time, I really decided, okay, I want to stay longer in London. So my first job was actually also still in London, working in the Urban Outfitters European headquarters in London, in the digital marketing department. Then I decided, okay, I want to actually learn more about, more specifically about the whole world of digital marketing. And it's not always the case, but at Urban Outfitters, it was the case that a lot of campaigns are actually managed by agencies, and a lot of the execution and planning is done by agencies. So it's mostly, to be honest, the case for very big corporations. So I thought, okay, I want to be at the source where all the planning happens, where all the knowledge is, and decided to apply for an agency. I went for actually Essence Mediacom, which is the biggest, if you look at the European perspective, the biggest among the big 6 agencies. And there I sort of did a tour around different departments. I worked within paid social, but also paid search, and really got that full digital marketing landscape knowledge. And I was actually quite happy at Mediacom. And then TikTok reached out to me, whether I want to help build up the German team in Berlin. And I thought, okay, maybe that's also a sign to go back to Germany, back to the roots, and to do something different. So I had worked on the client side, on the agency side, and then I thought, okay, platform side is something I haven't done yet. Let's try it out. And I think this is something that, when you look at a CV, you always see these things, like mostly the different stops in terms of which companies that you work at, maybe also like where did you study, of course. But I think one of the most important things that have influenced me to take this journey is all the internships that I've done. So I've done internships at Louis Vuitton, at Moët Hennessy, mostly in sales, but also digital marketing. For Jay and Lovett, which is a startup in Germany, I've done basically everything. At Marks and Spencer's, I have been in various teams in photography, video, digital, international marketing. So basically just tested a lot of things, also fashion buying, which is where I realized, okay, fashion buying is really not for me. So this is really, I think, something that's extremely important, like internships, to really find out, okay, where do you really want to go? Because ideally you don't want to hop on and off a job way too often, because that doesn't look very great on the CV. So really internships, a huge recommendation, are and have been really, really important to me. And maybe to speak about my journey at TikTok, a bit more specific. So I started as a client solutions manager. So I was actually the one who was in charge of, making our clients more successful. So making companies more successful on TikTok. Pretty early on, I was promoted already at the age of 27 without any leadership experience into building up and leading the e-commerce team at TikTok. So all the e-commerce clients where I was in charge of. And back then it was only 4 people. I mean, the organization itself was only like around 80 people. So it was a very small team. Half a year later, the team already doubled. And then since last year, I have been starting to lead 3 teams. So it was from 8 people to 20 people. So I led the e-commerce team, the retail team, and the marketplaces team. And then since this year, I'm actually leading even more teams. So right now it's 40 people. So it has been sort of gradually building up, and I've been learning a lot in this process, in this journey. And I will share a lot of those, especially leadership learnings with you from a perspective of learning by doing. And I hope it will help you. And yeah, I think this is what I really want to focus on, like, how did I get here? And, if you want to progress in a company, if you want to develop into a leadership role, how can you get there as well? How can you grow within a company and, be successful, basically? So I will basically deep dive to my key learnings that have really supercharged my career, and hopefully these learnings will help you as well. So let's start from the beginning, like not from the beginning, but like from GCU. What are my key learnings? So I've just put it into do's and don'ts. I think this is like a really easy one. So the top key to do's is at GCU. If you're still at GCU, I really recommend to you to connect with a lot of people, with students, with staff, with partners of GCU, because this is really, especially, I mean, if it is in Glasgow or in London, right, it's a huge opportunity. You have access to amazing mentors, your professors. They can be amazing mentors, but they also have a great network, right, that they can open up to you. Same as the students you will meet there. They are coming from various backgrounds. They can be super helpful for you for your future career development as well, right? So don't just look inside maybe your bubble if you're maybe from a certain country, only to hang out with people from that country, but really open up your horizon and get to know a lot of different people. And I think something that was really great that GCU offered is like a lot of opportunities to get involved. So for instance, organizing events. So I know back then we organized like a charity fashion show together with a partner from GCU to raise money for that charity that is actually helping women that don't have the money to go shopping for an interview and maybe don't have business office clothes for interviews, to make sure that those women had the attire for the interview and that they felt comfortable. So these are great initiatives, right? And we had access to that organization and we organized the events. We met so many more people internally and externally through that. So whenever you see an opportunity like that, just jump at it, because most likely you will not get that opportunity again. And something that I can really recommend to you, which I haven't done, and I'm like, why did I not do it, is to find a part-time job or an internship whilst you're studying. Of course, you need to make sure that you can still manage your studies on the side. But if you do that, it will already get you one step ahead. If I would have done that during my studies, it would have helped me a lot more to develop and to get basically the first job that I did with Urban Outfitters. Because for me, I had to send out loads of applications and they all asked me where was my last internship. So the Marks and Spencer's one has really helped me. But if I would have had maybe another one, that would have been even more beneficial. So if you can, really, I would look into this opportunity as well. And this is a no-brainer, like excellent grades, especially if it's, if you're applying after GCU for your first job, even if you have internships, the companies, this is the only time companies will look at your grades. After that, it really doesn't matter anymore. But the first job, within my industry at least, it really matters. So make sure to really deliver excellent grades. I mean, you have all the support there, right? You have the professors, you have the staff, you have student groups. So really, that should be, of course, your key focus area. And I think something that can help you there to be able to prioritize and focus on the right things, again, is to get a mentor. This can be internally, right, at GCU, maybe a professor, but also externally. It could be maybe someone you meet at a GCU event. If you feel like someone is inspirational and you can learn from them, just ask them if they want to be a mentor. Ask in a way like, hey, maybe do you have 1 hour every month to dedicate to speaking to me? I want to speak about topic XYZ, and you're super inspirational. I want to learn more about that. Every person loves to hear that you find them inspirational. So they will say yes, I would say in 99% of the times. You just have to have the courage to ask. Okay, what are the don'ts? So I have studied in London, so of course it's like a super exciting, vibrant city with a lot of things to do and to get distracted by. To be honest, in my first 2 months, I got quite distracted, and I needed my student support system to get me out of it. But really, don't get too much distracted by where you are. You're not in London to vacation and live your best life. You can live your best life still, but you're there to study, to network, and really leverage that opportunity. So really don't see it as like a nice trip, to vacation. At the same time, I mentioned it before, but really don't live in a bubble. So I think this is something that happens sometimes, is that you maybe only look inside a GCU. You don't really go to events or gatherings that actually GCU has access to, that you can have access to. It doesn't even have to be via GCU, but especially in London, right? It's a huge city. You have so much access to amazing events that are also often for free, where you can meet great people, and it's again a once in a lifetime opportunity. So really look outside of opportunities outside of GCU. Don't be lazy. I mean, this is also a no-brainer, similar to get excellent grades. But I think this is also related to group work, because at least in my course, we had to do a lot of group work. And I think something where you can already practice your leadership skills is within group work. So how can you maybe take the lead in a group work role and not just, enter the group and be like, okay, who's doing what, and just have a laid back approach? Because this can already help you develop those leadership skills. And of course, it can help you also get better grades. And again, don't work in your bubble, and don't work alone. I can also recommend you to really find a learning group of people who you think, okay, they're super focused. This person is super good in this topic. I want to learn more about that. And yeah, join basically a learning group, study group. And I think finally a quote that I can always think of is that you will never regret getting more involved. The only thing you will regret, and the only things that I regret, is that maybe I didn't get involved in specific things. I don't regret anything that I have done, even if I've spent like all night preparing for it. It was definitely worth it. Most of the times, I think there's like a general motto that says that whenever in doubt, always go pro action. Cool. So that was do's and don'ts for GCU. What are the do's and don'ts for applying for your first job? So for me, the key learnings is to have at least 3 references ready. This is again what I meant with the internships. If I would have had 1 more reference from another internship, or maybe from another, like even from a professor, it would have helped me more. So having at least 3 references ready to send to when you apply for a role. I would also apply for a minimum of 30 positions. So this is within my industry. Again, I can only speak within that. Before the interview, really be prepared. Read the company report, the news, what's in the news about the company. Know the products, especially related to that specific role. Let's say you want a role in product marketing. You need to know all the products, for instance, at TikTok. You need to be fully prepared for that before the interview. And I think every interview will have difficult questions. It can be brain teasers, but it can be also questions about you. It can be about your CV. If you have a gap of 2 years in your CV, there will be an uncomfortable question of why do you have that gap? Did you do a gap here? And if you don't have the right story to tell, that might be already a no-go for a couple of companies. So be prepared and script down the answers to difficult questions. And this is really important. And to be honest, I just came from this webinar, from an interview to this webinar, and the person didn't have questions prepared for me. And this is really like something you should have for every interview. Prepare at least 5 questions. You probably don't even get the time to ask those 5 questions, but just be prepared to have them ready, and also add at least 1 question that is specific to the person who's interviewing you. Why? Because that shows that you've done your research on the company. You are actually critically thinking about maybe opportunities or, what could be improved at the companies, and you've done your research about the person that's interviewing you. And this will show the company, okay, this person is super switched on and they're ready to roll up their sleeves. What are the key don'ts? I mean, goes without saying, yeah, don't be unprepared. Whenever you feel like, I'm not 100% sure if I know the answer to this question, to be honest, I would reschedule the interview and just say, you cannot do it because you have an important meeting. Also, in the interview, say when you don't know. I think this often happens that, when maybe someone doesn't know the answer, they will just wobble around it, and, that will just not land very well. So just always be honest and rather ask for clarifying questions. And something that's also very important, again, that goes with the key do's, is not to be disinterested. If you don't have questions ready, that makes me think as an interviewer that you're not interested in joining the company, and that is just another of the 30 positions that you applied for. And yeah, don't be ever late, because that's just a no-brainer. It's not just for me as a German. I know, like, we're particular. We Germans are always 10 minutes early, but generally just be on time. I think that's super important. And I think a quote here is that I can think of, and that I always think after one interview: a job interview is like a first date. If I from the start have the impression this person is amazing, the other interviews will not change that for me. So this is, especially the first interview is your chance to really change the perception and really have a good shot at the role. All right, so we have key do's and don'ts at GCU. Applying for your first job. So you landed the role now, let's say, and you're starting the first 90 days in the company. What are the key do's and don'ts? So first of all, again, prepare yourself. Of course, you need to prepare for the interview, but especially if you landed the job already, you could reach out to people. You could ask the person, like most of the times it's your direct manager who has interviewed you. Ask them to already tell you, maybe via LinkedIn, hey, these are the top 2 contacts that you could already speak to, and ask them some questions so you can prepare for the role already and get some insights from them. Also, make sure from the beginning to define clear expectations with your boss on what is expected of you, especially in the first 30 days. Make that very clear from both sides.
Hi everyone, apologies for that. I think Nele's went offline for a wee second. We'll just give Nele a wee minute just to see if we can get her to rejoin the call again. We've just had word from Nele just to say that she's restarting her computer again, so we'll be back online in a wee minute. If you just bear with us, apologies about that. We'll just give Nele another minute or so to join the call. If we don't get Nele back on in the next few minutes, we'll look to reschedule the call in the next couple of weeks. However, we're hoping Nele will be able to join back with us in the next minute or so. We've had word that she's just restarting her laptop again, so it shouldn't take too long. Again, apologies everyone, just to let you know that Nele is due to join the call again in the next minute or so. She's just restarting her laptop, so hopefully we'll be back up and running very soon. Again, thank you everyone. We're just waiting on Nele to restart her laptop. We'll give her another minute or so to hopefully join the call. If we don't manage to get Nele back online, we will look to reschedule the call. I think Nele was roughly halfway through our presentation, which was amazing, so we don't want you to miss out on the other half. So if worst case scenario, we'll reschedule the call. But we have had word from Nele, she is restarting her laptop, so we are expecting her anytime now. And I think Nele is just coming back online, so I will just make sure she's back on, and I'll just put Nele back on screen again.
Yes, I'm so sorry. My
Yeah.
laptop literally. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're back on screen now, Nele.
That literally never happens, but my laptop just said, "Oh, I ran into an issue. I need to fix it." So, okay. Sorry about that. Where were we? The first 90 days. Okay, let's hope it doesn't happen again. If you can make me the whole, if you can give me sharing access, that would be great. I'm happy to see that still 50 people stayed in the call. They're not like, okay, I'm not gonna stay for that. Cool, thank you. All right, thanks for your patience. Let's crack on. I hope you can see the screen. Yeah, cool. All right. So, yeah, expectations with your boss. Accelerate learning through interviews. This is something that I mentioned earlier. So something you can do already before you join the company, but especially once you're in the company. This is your time, the first 30 days, to have expert interviews. Most likely, if you ask your boss, give me 2 people to speak to that are amazing and that they're opinion leaders in the company. I want to interview them on what are the key risks, challenges, opportunities that they see. And then if you ask them, hey, who do you think I should interview to give you 1 or 2 people? This is how you can get, the best people to speak to that will have the best ideas. And also ask them, like, how can you help them? And how can, from their opinion, what do you need to do to excel in your role? And I think by doing that, you can really secure early wins already straight away, because you will have all the knowledge you need when you will be able to accelerate it in a really short time. And you will also be able to create alliances through the stakeholder mapping, like knowing early on, okay, who's important in the company? Who do you need to speak to? Who's a key opinion leader that you need to have on your side? And if you haven't read it already, this book, if you want to take a screenshot, this really is a game changer. Really read it. It's really good. It's basically mapping out the first 90 days, giving you a plan of what to do in the new role. I would read it again if I would join another company. It's relevant for every part of whenever you join a new business. What are the key don'ts? So don't expect anyone to do anything for you, especially don't expect your boss to check in with you regularly to know how you're doing. That's your responsibility. Don't live in a bubble, so don't just connect with your team, but like really get those expert interviews. Also connect with teams from different markets. Like for instance, at TikTok, I know, okay, the US team is always super much far ahead of us because they just launched so much earlier than us. How can we get more insights from them? Also, don't make assumptions. I think this is something that happens maybe with someone who is maybe not so data oriented. And if you're not typically like a blue personality and super data oriented, always check in with yourself and don't make assumptions, but rather check the data, speak to people about that. And this is like a no-brainer, but it happens a lot. It's like, don't gossip at the company. This is like, it might feel good because I think tends to make people feel good to gossip, but don't do it because it will hurt you in the long run. And generally, I would say a new job is like a blank book and you're the author. So really, when you write the first 10 pages, don't fuck it up because you want people to keep on reading. So this is, I think, super critical. Then let's go on to how to progress in a company. So what are the do's and don'ts? So first of all, have a growth mindset. If you don't know what a growth mindset is, I would again take a screenshot because this book, to be honest, I think it has probably changed my life. So yeah, if it can change yours, if you can send me on LinkedIn afterwards, that would be great because I think this will change your life too. Have a growth mindset. Maybe to quickly explain what's the opposite of a growth mindset is a fixed mindset. So let's say if you say, I'm never going to be able to be, let's say, a consultant because I'm just not a strategic thinker. That would be a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is, okay, I want to be a consultant. I'm going to put all of my energy and effort into becoming a strategic thinker, and I'm going to do everything that will get me there. Just in short, this book will explain it to you. Set your goals smart. I think this is also a no-brainer. So you need to make sure that, the goals you set are realistic, measurable, etc. Just make sure to do that. This quote might be like a lot of Gen Z people at my company would say, oh, this is so like outdated, but I think it's still true. Make your boss look good. So what this is specifically important if you want to progress in a company. You want to, send your boss frequent updates. You want him to know what's going on in your business. You want him to know all the updates. And this is also your responsibility to keep your boss in the loop, updated on the progress and the success that you're achieving. So he can also talk about you and position you in the right way. And know your USP. I think this is something you can get, for instance, through mentoring. If you don't know your USP yet, what are the things where you're standing out in your organizations, and you can, put those things forward. Let's say you're specifically an expert in a specific topic, and that's super critical to the organization. How can you position yourself for that topic? And I think, again, the don'ts is, don't expect others to motivate you. Basically, don't expect anything. You're in charge. You are basically in the lead to drive that. Don't be dependent. So always bring your own ideas. Really establish that USP for yourself. Don't be short-sighted. So let's say if you're thinking about development and you're only thinking like, my goal is in the next months, 6 months, I want to get like a 5% salary increase, or my goal is in the next 6 months, I want to go to this event. You will most likely not develop further than those 6 months. So always have like a plan for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. This might seem like super over-the-top planning, but I'm telling you, this will help you to progress in a company because it makes especially your lead, your managers see, okay, this person is serious about staying at this company, developing here, and I need to support her to get her or him there. And I think something that's really important to say, if you do all of that, never go beyond your limits. I think especially if you want to grow, if you want to become a top lead, you need to see your career as a marathon, not a sprint. If you see it as a sprint, most likely you're so exhausted after the first 5 years that you will need a break. And that, something we don't want to happen, right? Generally, I think there's no secret, to be honest, to success. These are just some tips. In the end, it's preparation, hard work, and learning from failure, which is generally like a growth mindset. Cool. The last one I want to talk to you about is how to develop into a leadership role. What are the do's and don'ts? So the key do's, this is like one of our sort of leadership principles at TikTok actually is, but I think it applies to any company, is to act as an owner of the business. So this is also connected to, thinking one level up. If you're thinking about, for instance, let's say you're leading a small team and you are in a hiring conversation with an amazing talent, and you're thinking, wow, this is a great person. Like, I love to have them under my team. Maybe they're a bit overqualified and actually they would be a better fit for the other team, but I want to have them on my team because they can really help me. That's probably the wrong level of thinking, because in the long term, that will maybe just make your team look good. In the short term, in the short term, it would make your team look good, but in the long term, it would be better if you would position that person in a different team where you see them long term. So really act as an owner of the business and think one level up. Innovate for the business. I think something that really, and like one thing that differentiates a manager from a lead is managing the status quo versus innovating for the business. So you always want to, with the USP that you have, with the expertise, look for innovation and really drive change. I know in huge corporations, it's a bit more difficult than in like a startup, but in every corporation, you're able to innovate something. And something that's really important, and it's part of also networking, right, is, and you can already start learning that at university at GCU, is to get internal and external followers. So that means people internally, if maybe a new person comes into the company and they ask their manager, hey, who is like a great person who has amazing skills at the company, who's like a key opinion leader who I should speak to, they should be saying your name. That should be your goal. So how can you get those external but also internal followers? And in order to do that, you also need a clear action plan for that. And basically that's the goal, right? To become an opinion leader for your team. So one criteria that we look at when we look at, okay, who could be a great person internally that's already here to lead the team, is we look at, okay, who is an opinion leader already in the teams where we know, okay, people are listening to that person. People are going to that person for advice. That person is actually not a lead. They're also a brilliant IC maybe, but they are an opinion leader. If they say, hey, guys, should we maybe do this? This is a great opportunity. People are looking up to that person. If you are that person, and if you have those followers, you have a great shot at becoming a leadership position. And generally, I think if you want to become an opinion leader and you're actually not a lead yet, it's important to stay really open and humble, because maybe you're the best person, you're the most senior person in the team, you are influencing others, but something that's really important is don't be arrogant, because most likely you will not be an opinion leader if you are arrogant. You will just maybe be a person that other people will want to avoid. And then the key don'ts, again, don't expect, I think this is something that's like a reoccurring topic. Again, don't expect if you're the best IC that you're automatically the best leader, because that's often actually not the case. If you really want to develop into a leadership position, you need to, again, speak to your leads and speak to other people about what they would expect from you, from a great lead to have, like what qualities to have. Don't work in silos. Again, team play is really important to develop into a leadership role. You need to show people around you that you're able to do it, that you're able to work great in teams. You can already start doing that at university by, being great at teamwork, taking the lead, making sure that everyone has a great part in the teamwork. Don't make assumptions. So also, I think a leadership role sometimes sounds like the super shiny, nice thing to do. And then, when you're actually in the role, you might think, okay, this is not what I signed up for, because there's a lot of difficult, uncomfortable conversations that you don't want to have. For instance, if you need to, have a difficult conversation about letting someone go, or, there's a lot of feedback conversations that are really not comfortable. I think really be aware of those things. If this is something that you want to do, this is part of it as well. And I think something really, once you are there, it's important to know that you're never done. So even if you're a lead, even if you're a manager, it doesn't mean that you're a leader, because generally a manager, I will show you a quote about that later, but it doesn't mean that you're a leader. It doesn't mean that you're actually motivating, influencing, driving your team, maybe on paper, but it doesn't have to be in reality. So it's really important to really evolve in the role, to constantly learn, like to read books about how you can, better drive your team, how you can better motivate them. And I think that's really the key difference, right? A boss or a manager, they have the title, but a lead really has the people. And I think that's what I will leave you with in terms of my key learnings. Yeah, I think we have still a lot of time for questions. So I would just stop sharing my screen. Oh yeah, I already am. And be ready for your questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Nele. Thanks for a brilliant set of insights and advice there. Many points I can pick up on. I think I'll save for the closing. But as you rightly say, there are questions that have been pre-submitted. We have just about 12 minutes or so to go through this, so I'll press on with them. Some of the questions you've sort of addressed partly in what you've been saying, but I'll segue into one from student Susie Chamberlain, who says, what do you wish you knew before taking on the leadership role? So perhaps you can summarize some of the key thoughts there from what you've been saying overall.
Yeah, really good question. Generally, I would say what I wish I would have known, that nobody will really teach you about leadership, and that you really have to teach yourself. That's on one side. And the other thing is that recognizing that leadership is both an art and a science. So you can learn as much about leadership as you want, but the art part is something that you just have to also has something to do with you and your confidence. So working on yourself, but also, evolving over time and learning all the time.
I mean, that's the point you were making, really, isn't it? About reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when you're a manager, you're dealing with lots of different kinds of people, maybe at different levels.
Yeah.
So it is reflecting on that, but also keeping everyone on track, the sort of the critical priorities in place.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I couldn't help reflect on your own situation this afternoon. Obviously, there was a tech issue, so something else you've got to be able to do is pivot and adapt, because these things come at you from these surprises from different directions without you realizing. Have you got any examples where you've had to pivot at any point in your sort of career?
Yes, I think generally I have to pivot probably every day, because there is something like this, probably even more dramatic, happens every day. Every day there is a disaster. Every day I have to every day a fire burns. So I think that really happens every day, and something that really helps me to reflect on that and where I maybe need to pivot in my behavior is a ritual that I do every day. I can recommend it to you. It's another book, The Flow at Work. So every day I write down, okay, what did I achieve today? What was really good? What was not so good, but I will let go of it. And what will I do better tomorrow? And how do I set myself up for success? So I think I just do that constantly. There's no one time where I completely pivoted. I think it's like a constant working.
Yeah, in fact, that was one of the questions that we had. Do you have a favorite habit or ritual? I mean, it said a favorite habit or ritual. So is there something that you do consistently?
Yeah, that's probably that, or the power pose before I have to go on a big stage or something like that, because I'm still really afraid about public speaking. I have to go on a stage in 1 month to present in front of 500 people. It's gonna be horrible. But I think the power pose really helps you there. If you do.
Yeah. I mean, the only way you can prepare for that is practice, in my experience.
Exactly.
And I think it goes back to something you mentioned about your own experience when you were a student, and the presentations or the group projects, and inevitably very frequently there is a presentation aspect to a group project, and it is tempting, if you have a sort of very dominant personality in the team, to let them do it all, but actually, whilst you're studying, it's important to gain those experiences and get the feedback from it as well, both from the tutor and the peers.
Yes.
Indeed. Okay. Right. I should stop talking because I'm after your views. So, graduate Andrew McCauley asks, "What's the boldest thing you've done in your current role or during your career?"
I think probably 2020 summer. So when I was still living in London, I was in a relationship back then. have been working in a different role. And because of TikTok, I moved to a different country. I quit my job and I started TikTok. I restarted my relationship because it was COVID, and long distance in COVID just doesn't really work. But I think that was a really bold move, and a lot of people were like, okay, is that maybe a bit too much? Like, isn't just moving to a different role already like a lot of change? But I think that has been the boldest move, and I think it has been the best move so far in my life.
Yeah, I mean, you've like a lot of the audience here. I'm always in admiration of people who come from another country to study in the UK, and typically not in the first language either. So there's an awful lot of there's a sort of a lot of challenge in place. So there is that kind of mindset already here. But yes, you've got to be comfortable with change, I guess, to progress these days.
100%. Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you. So we have a question also from graduate Fola Sayomi Ajumobi. I hope I pronounced that correctly. How do you manage 4 different teams? Because we heard at the beginning that you have a kind of wide portfolio. So how do you manage these 4 different teams?
Yeah, so I mean, I have 4 amazing leads below me that manage those teams. I basically manage 4 people right now that are managing the rest. But that's basically how I do it. And the way to do it is that I completely trust them and I focus on their enablement and how they can grow. I think my goal is, in the end, succession planning. So if I one day get kidnapped by aliens and they have to take over immediately, they are able to do it. So that's my goal every day, to develop them. And of course, it's also for me important to be close to the full team. So I do like skip level lunches, breakfast sessions, meetings with everyone in that team. So I make sure to know everyone and what everyone's ambitions are as well.
So that must require a lot of organisation and planning mentally in your mind. And I'm guessing it seems part of your personality. Well, I seem to recall it anyway from when you were here, that you're always interested in a wide range of things. So the fact that you've presented 3 books here is no surprise to me at all. So you're always looking around at ways to improve. And it's not quite the situation where you gain all this knowledge and then you start to sit down and apply it and develop with a bit of experience. You're always looking to see where the thinking is going. How important is it to have that mindset?
Yeah, that's part of my personality, yes.
And could you talk about maybe how you bridge from, say, Urban Outfitters, what you were looking at then, how you were thinking to move to the next stage?
So I think generally it's like not being satisfied with the status quo. And I think moving on, if there's really no opportunity right now, I think something that a lot of people do is that they stay in the same role for a longer time because maybe opportunities are promised to them. And I think it's good to stay at a company for at least 2 years or so, because otherwise you're not really like deep enough to be an expert in what you're doing. But I think once you realize, okay, what I need to learn, like being able to identify what you need to get to the next level, and this is why like planning and having goals ready for the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years is super important. And back then, when I was looking at the next 5 years, I didn't see any resources within the current company that they could give me in the next 6 months, 1 year to get there. So I think if you have a plan and if you don't see the people or opportunities that can help you there, but you see the opportunity somewhere else, go to that opportunity.
Great, thank you. Some of the questions here are sort of inevitably we're addressing, so I'll come back to those if we need to. It's quite an interesting one here, which is looking at the balance of experience, skills, and the sort of value of a master's degree. So it's from Chrissy Marisco, sorry, graduate. Do you think companies today place more value on experience, skills, or credentials like a master's degree?
That's a really good question. I think generally something that I think experience, but something that you can get in a master's degree is skill set. So it's skill set and experience. So it always depends on the role that you're going into. But let's say skill set would be, for instance, let's say if you want to become a computer engineer and you did a specific course in computer engineering, this will help you for a specific role. So I would say skill set and experience. I think where the master's degree is really helping you is, and I experienced that in, especially to be honest, at the agency. If you have a master's degree, you do have a shot at a higher salary. I think, let's just say it very bluntly, that's the way it is. If you don't have a master's degree, you will probably start at a much lower salary. And also, generally, when it comes to the higher you get in your role, at some point people will look at your background. So, and if you don't have then a bachelor's or master's degree, people will look at you in a different way. I don't think that's fair, but I do think that for some things like specific project management strategies, and also like being really deep in a specific project, for instance, doing like a thesis, is something that you really only learn at university. And you would have to gain that knowledge then in the workplace. So I think for that, a master's degree is very important.
Yeah, and quite often you find that the master's degree is a specialism that enables you to access a particular kind of industry. So our one is a luxury one. So if you want to get into the luxury industry, it does help a lot to open the doors, even if you've got a more generic business or other type of bachelor's. So a question here from graduate Renee Hamilton. As someone who is only 1 year out of university, but with aims of getting into leadership role in the future, what advice can you give?
I think, with 1 year in a master's degree. So I would say take the lead role in group work, get some leadership experience there already in that. If there is an opportunity at the university to lead a specific project, do that. If there's maybe, like I've been a student representative at GCU in London, if you have a chance at that, or in Glasgow, do that. There's a lot of different ways where you can already gain leadership experience and drive thought leadership without even being a leader. And then I would say once you're in your first role, really, I think find a mentor. I would already find a mentor now who's inspiring you, and reading books about leadership, I think, is important, especially once you're getting closer to it.
Okay, and I think we're sort of coming nearly to the end. So I'll ask one more question that's appeared in the chat. So it's Anna Hartley. What is your approach to leadership as a young leader, especially when those working under you may be older? Pretty unlikely in TikTok, I mean, but I mean,
actually, because I'm quite young, it is the case.
Okay.
So yes, I think it has been very tough for me at the start, because when you're young and you're working with your former peers, you always, and I think imposter syndrome is probably something that a lot of people have heard maybe in this call as well. You will always feel like maybe you're not good enough, like you need to deliver even more exceptionally because everyone thinks that you cannot, because you're too young, you don't have the experience. And I think here it's really, the strategy is to work on yourself and to become more confident, because and that's also like, maybe if there's someone in this webinar who often struggles with confidence issues, I would just recommend to you, like, fake it until you make it. If you go into a meeting and you're already thinking, like, I'm really not confident, it's a different thing if you need to present something and you don't know anything about the topic, because then it's like maybe you should prepare. But if you're prepared and you're the best person to do it, you're just not maybe confident, just do it. Just be confident, tell yourself, I'm going to be confident, and it will also translate to the other person. So yeah, basically my strategy was fake it until you make it.
What a wonderful expression. And yes, I mean, it's something that everything works for individuals. So if you go in to a complex scenario and you're absolutely spot on key, conversant with your first major point, then, as you said earlier on, that first interview, often that first impact means people are more inclined to follow on the rest. So it's that first opening tranche. We could talk obviously for a long time. It's great to see you again. What I'm going to do is just thank you, obviously, and sum up some of the key points. But feel free to add anything. So normally we try and do things in threes. So I was making some notes, summarising what I thought collectively were some of the most important things for people to take away here. My number one personally, and the first on my list from you, is network. Lots of different ways. Go meet people, approach people on LinkedIn in an intelligent way. Do the research, that's important, but do that networking.
Yes.
Second one, you mentioned twice, is mental. I think there were two different slides, so I'm guessing that is high on your list.
Yes.
As well. And I think the third one for me, and if it is for you, I don't know, is get some work experience, even if it's an internship or paid work experience. Some people come and do part-time jobs. All work experience is valuable because you just get into that habit, I think, of working. And my last point is, and I don't know if you agree, but actually, something that's often overlooked is the need to take responsibility and be accountable.
Perfectly summarized. Yes.
Okay, you're very kind. Thank you. Nele,
Yes.
it's wonderful to see you again. Thank you so much for this. I believe you'd be a brilliant manager where you are and anywhere else, actually. So
Amazing. And I'm really thank you for the opportunity. Thank you all for your really kind words. I couldn't read through all of them, but I would love to, if you have any specific questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and wishing you all the best and lots of success. And I hope this session helped you and gave you some thoughts to think about this weekend.
great. And thank you, everyone in the audience, for tuning in this afternoon. And I hope you all found it interesting and valuable.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.